Okay, everybody. Now let's do this one. Okay, this is, which one did I want to do? Converting between types. Okay, let's do that one. So data types, okay, there is something called data type. What is a data type? A data type is a value, okay, a valid value in a range, okay, and the operations that you can perform on them. For example, int, on int number, whole numbers, you can perform addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and modulus, right? We might not have talked about modulus, but those are the valid operations for the values in int. So a data type is value in a valid range and the operations that you can perform on them. For string, for example, the type string, you can only do string concatenation, but you cannot do division or multiplication. So that is the type for string. The valid operations are only concatenation, no multiplication. That is a data type. Okay, so we learned int, we learned float, which is for real numbers, int is for whole numbers, and string is for strings, characters, a sequence of characters within the double quotes, or single quotes. Okay, those are strings. And you don't have to worry about this. This is not for today. And there is this function called a type that will give you the type of a piece of data. So that's a function. And then you have another function that's called odd, which is ordinal, and char, which is the character value. Okay. So ASCII and Unicode, you should have read about ASCII and Unicode, right? So what is an ASCII character? Let me talk about that first. Okay, an ASCII character is, let's do this. Okay, an ASCII character is something like A, for example, right? Oh, okay, A. Okay, so how is A represented in the computer? A is represented like this. Okay, do you have to remember this? No, you don't have to, but I'm just showing you so that you understand. Okay, so A is represented like this in the computer as bits, right? 8 bits, and B is something like this. Okay, so, and this is called a binary number. If you convert it to a decimal number, it will be 65. And this one converted to a decimal number is 66. So A, okay, odd A will give you 65. And odd B will give you 66. On the opposite side is the function named CHR, which is character. So if you give it 66, this will give you B. If you give it 65, it will give you A. That's the two functions, okay? And these are called ASCII character representations. ASCII characters use 8 bits, as you can see, 8 bits to represent a character. ASCII is American Coding Information Interchange. Okay, American Standard Coding Information Interchange. So ASCII uses 8 bits, which is 1 byte, to represent a character. So you can change these zeros and ones, 8 zeros and ones, you can combine them, and you will have 256 characters, different combinations, okay? But then you think about the world language. There are so many different characters, different representations. 256 is not enough. So later on, in the 90s, we devised a Unicode scheme. Unicode uses how many bits? 16 bits. And 16 bits can represent this many different combinations. That's called Unicode. Ascii uses 8 bits. Okay, that's 256. So this is more than enough for all the characters in any language in the world. So Unicode and ASCII is a subset of Unicode. It's part of Unicode. It's the 1 byte of the Unicode, right? Unicode uses 2 bytes. So that's the ASCII character. Okay, now let's go back to this. Let's continue. So those are the 2 functions. Now let's look at this. So x is equal to 35.2, and that is an assignment statement. We're assigning 35.2 to the variable named x, and this is a float because it's a real number. And y is 24. This is not a real number anymore, 24. So y is an int type. And then this statement, right? It's a function call to print. Print is a function, and after a function, you have the parentheses, right? 2 parentheses. In it, you have 2 arguments, 1 and 2, and the second one. So each argument is not a variable. It's not a literal, not a value. It's a function call. And this function's name is type. Any function must have parentheses around after it. So you have a pair of parentheses, and within the parentheses, you have the x, which is the argument. So you are saying, give me the data type of x, which should be float, right? Give me the data type of y, which should be int. Okay, let's run. And you can see float and int. Okay, now let's do this. Let's give it, let's have a different value. What about if I say my words is equal to hello? Okay, by the way, I'm not sure if I discussed this. For a variable name, you always follow this convention. You start the first word with lowercase, beginning with the second word. Okay, beginning with the second word, you capitalize the initial letters of each word. So if you have 3 words, if you say my first word, okay, so my is the first word, and you will lowercase, you will have it as lowercase, and then first is the second word, you uppercase F, and then you uppercase W. That is the convention. Okay, so now we are saying my first word is assigned the value of hello, and let's do type. That's the function name. Parenthesis within it is the argument. In this case, it's first word. Let's see. It should be string, right? That's a string. Within double quotes, that's a string. And you can see it says it's a string. Okay. That's the function type that can tell you what type it is. And here, the 5th line, print x, that's the variable name, that's 35.2, converts, it's a string literal, and this is int x. Okay, int, it's a data type. It's also a function. So x is a float right here. X is a float. And we are converting that float into an int. That's what this means. So it means get the value from x and make it into an int, which will become 35. So when you run, it will print out 35, right? Right there. Okay. And this one, y, converts to float, float x. I believe the author made a mistake. That should be y. Okay, y, in this case here, when it's declared and assigned a value, it's an int because this is a whole number. And we want to convert this whole number into a float. So it should be 24.0, okay? And let's see, it's 24, Oh, because 35 points, just now it was X. Let me run it again. Okay, so you can see it's 24 converts to float 24.0. Remember, for a float, you must have the 0 after it. If it's an int, you don't have a decimal place or the point, decimal point. If it's a float, you must have the decimal point and a decimal place. If there is no actual decimal place, you must add a 0 to it. Okay, that makes it a float. So that's that. And this one, okay, this one is a string is a function that will convert a value into a string. And the argument is an arithmetic expression, x plus y. X has the value of 35.2, y has the value of 24. So you add them together, that gives you 59.2. And you are converting that value 59.2, which is a float, you are converting it into a string and assign that to this variable. So let me comment this out. We don't need that. We will not explain that. We will not need that. Okay, this one and this one. So those will be explained later. And so you may ask, why is that important, this conversion? The importance is this. Okay, I'm going to do this. Remember, now red string is a string. Okay, so can you do this? A string, this division operation is not defined for string, so it will not let you run. It will say unsupported operand type, right? String, you cannot perform division on a string, and this is a string because you converted this expression, the value of this expression into a string. So now this variable is a string. Well, how about this? So what did I want to do? Okay, x plus y. Now this is not a string. That is two variables added together. That is not a string. So even though you have the same value right here, same value, the first one is a string, which you cannot do division. The second one is not a string because you did not convert, right? So this one, you can do any operation. So now you can actually do an operation. That's the difference, okay? Okay, that's that. So that's that. Let's continue. And okay, here, I already discussed this, right? Ordinal value of A is 65. Ordinal value of B is 66. And then I don't remember anymore. Ordinal value of Z is 90. Ordinal value of space, this is a space. It's not empty. It is empty. That means it's a space. Space is 32. Okay. And the Ascii table is actually in your book on page, let me see, on page 48. So if you go to 48, you will see the Ascii table, and you will be able to see all the ordinal values for characters and the ordinal values for characters and characters ordinal values. You can see the conversion right there. So that's that. And this is converting 100 to a character, which is D, converting 111 to a character, which is O, and converting 103 into a character, which is G. And you can just print. Let's see, what is the character of 345? It may not make sense, but let's see. And it is this symbol. You see, that is other languages, right? What is 600? Let's just play. 600 is this symbol. That's not in English. That's in other languages. So that's the character. That's the function that converts it into a character. And this is the function that gives you the ordinal value. Okay, that's it, everybody.